Welcome to Rhythm, a podcast on being in balance through conversations with the Swami. Namaste Rhythm listeners. My name is Sunil. I'm with Swami Tadandanda from the Ramakrishna Vedanta Center of Auckland, New Zealand. How are you, Swamiji?
I'm very good, Sunil. Thank you. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. Swamiji, in the last episode, we started talking about perspectives and how our perspectives are colored and conditioned by many things, including our upbringing, etc. Today, can we talk about how this conditioning affects our everyday life?
Sure. I think if we can make this knowledge practical in our life, that's the value of it. Although it's all a lot of theory. So it's good to have that deep understanding and of how our preconditioned mind from our birth, from previous lifetimes, from different experiences have colored our mind, and we see the world. When we see the world, the mind imparts its coloration. So whatever we observe is the reality or the thing out there, the object. Swami Vivekananda in this lecture says the external world is X, unknown and unknowable. X plus the mind is what we perceive. Okay, there is something there. 10 people look at it and each one sees differently. The reality is same, X, whatever it is, but each person imparts his own coloration. Yeah. So imagine you are in an office, in a boardroom, somebody presents some data. And so many people are there with different levels of experience, some accounting, engineering, whatever is there. Each one is interpreting in their own different way, isn't it? Depending on their experience. Somebody might be a very experienced person. He sees one way and a novice sees another way. Somebody sees maybe a tendency to see only the negative things, Somebody sees the positive things. So when just being mindful that none of us are seeing the reality as it is, that each one is contributing their peace of mind. And when somebody expresses an opinion or view, they're not talking about the reality. What they're sharing is the coloration of their mind with respect to that. And from what we've been discussing, we understand that each one will be different because each one has been, his mind has been conditioned differently.
Separately, everyone said a different conditioning.
So why are we having the discussion? Well, maybe to enrich ourselves, because I have my own conditioning and I just can't change the conditioning of my mind to see another person's point of view. But I can learn and listen and learn from another person. How do you say it?
So just having that awareness and understanding that if I'm seeing it in a particular way, that's my understanding. But if someone else is seeing it,
equally right.
Equally, he's
valid.
Not. Exactly. His or her reasoning and understanding needs to be understood by us.
Then we are open to that mind. We said, okay, let me hear what another person is saying. And then why am I keeping that open mind? Because I want to be enriched with that knowledge. But if we are smug and we think we are the smartest guy there and my understanding alone is right, then the way I will interact with others, I'm not listening to them. Okay. To hear and to listen are to another thing. You're hearing them, but you're not listening to them. You're not accepting them. Maybe you are confrontational. You go into an argument. We try to enforce your view on the other person. All right. If not by logic, by authority. I am the boss. I'll tell you that's what you do type of thing. See? And it creates more tension because you might impose your idea, but it is not his. He'll never have an ownership of it, and he will not run with it. But he will say, okay, the boss is saying I will do this type of thing. See? And that's where many times, the binding thing loses, And the authorities tell this, lower people say, okay, the boss is saying, let me do it. If it works out, good. If it's not, doesn't work out,
it's not my fault.
Not my fault,
The boss's fault.
They made the decision type of thing. So a smart management would create this, or teach this psychology basically. And look, there's no black and white, there's no right and wrong. These are all different perspectives of it. We are together here so that we can share our own perspectives, and let us see how we can enlighten each other, enrich each other, and the decision that we'll make will have the lights of different minds shining on it from all different directions, not only one solo type of thing. It will be a much better decision, more chances of success are there, and everyone has got an ownership of it type of thing. So it's a very, very practical thing. And if you say, you sit chair meeting in the board and you lay these rules, so just say, guys, this is how it works, then everyone is very respectful of another person. Okay, that's very important. See, and the other person is feeling, I'm being heard respectfully. Everyone pays attention to that person, makes some inquiry, can you tell a little bit more? And that person then, flowers forth, and says, feels more enthusiastic about the whole thing. I made a contribution. They listen to my view. And they also told, and then vice versa, the other person also feels inclined to listen to everyone else's. You don't feel threatened by somebody, and you don't feel that something is being imposed upon it. So that it's all about communication. People are different minds. When the whole idea of organization is different minds will gather together and try to be in sync. In some common idea will run through, like different flowers, but a thread will run through and make a beautiful garland. So there is something, the ideal, that binds that people who are working in the organization. But it will still be different. It doesn't mean that everyone has come there. It's a homogeneous group after some time type of thing, And how they will interact with each other, enrich each other, and of course serve the organization better, is to have this understanding, each and everyone, right from the boss, to value everyone's input, understanding that nothing is trivial. At the end of the day, the view of the guy on the ground floor who is going to execute that is very important, because if he doesn't get it, he doesn't have ownership of it, he is not going to execute it properly, no matter how wonderful might be the concept or idea at the top level management. So I think that enriches, it brings in harmony, it brings in that rhythm that we're talking about, and everyone feels part of it, they're heard, and the differences in the mind become sort of minimized, and sometimes you say, we are all on the same page, okay, let's do it type of thing. But if they don't feel, then they might go away from that meeting not having resolved that internal conflicts, and if people's behavior have aggravated this. See, we start with some differences anyway, but we can make a bad situation worse, or we try to harmonize things. There's a beautiful mantra, one of the ancient Vedas, Samgachadhvam samvatadhvam samo manansi janatam deva bhagam yatha purve sanjnanana upasate samano mantra samiti samanam manas sah chitta simisam. So the word samanam comes. Means let there be that harmony and sameness. Let there be harmony in our intention, why we have gathered there. Let there be harmony in our minds, in our understanding, so that whatever we do is in harmony. And that is like a beautiful motto that any board organization can have in the boardroom. Different minds have come together, but we'll succeed only when we are united behind. That's the idea of an organization, or any group for that matter.
Yeah. But there's, like in practical life, there's always people with very strong views that have, if you're at the senior management level, the reason they probably succeeded is having a very strong view and a very strong slant towards something. And that is why they're there. And so for some, it will be quite difficult to accept others' views, right?
Yeah, well, you can be, then such a person is very lonely on the top. Okay? Yeah. You have your views, you give orders, people will follow it because they need the job. All right, but they're not with you. They don't share the failures. They don't share the successes also. They're just there because they need the work. It's not that they love the work. It's not that they love the boss and feel him to be their leader. type of thing. A leader is one who can hold many minds together. Swami Vivekananda says a characteristic of a leader is one who can hold many minds together along a line of common interest. So he should be able to identify what is common through all of them. It's like that thread that runs through all the flowers. And he holds a thread and everyone is with him. If he can't find that common thing, then people will drift off. My boss, I'm leaving type of thing, So there are some people are there who are very, very inflexible, stubborn, arrogant, opinionated, and they are the ones difficult to work with, I don't think they succeed very much in life, because success comes not by having a beautiful idea, it's about implementing the idea, and the people will implement it. He can't sit in the big chair and do that, see.
Yeah.
So I think some managers and leaders are there who come down to the grassroots level, like they say. Come down to the factory floor, talk to the people type of thing. Immediate response is, boss came and asked, and how's it going? Can we do this any better? And of course, he's doing it every day. Some idea might have come in his head, but he never got an opportunity to share. Here's somebody who comes and he can tell, and because he's doing it, he knows if I do it in a different way, I'm going to make it more efficient or something. And if the boss receives it, that man gets thinking, well, if I get another idea, I'm going to put. But it all adds incrementally to the efficiency of things. We're talking about a workplace, okay? The same principle applies everywhere. In a family, let us say, husband, wife, children, brothers, sisters, extended family, they're all your very own, but each one is a different mind. And when the little kids, they're all angels, but at some point you will see when they become adolescents or teenagers at least, well, all the samskaras they have brought from the previous lifetimes, now they're beginning to sprout forth. And you can see their behavior changes, their opinions change, and you try to understand. If the parents think that, where did they learn this? We never gave them any opportunity or this type of exposure, then our understanding of who that person is not complete. But if we look from the Vedanta perspective, these are incarnating soul. The mind is getting transported from one body to the other. In the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna says that death we discard, just like we discard worn-out clothes, likewise we discard worn-out bodies and we take new ones. But the mind and the samskaras, inherited tendencies continue. In a child, he's got all that bundle of things. At teenage, they begin to express itself. So a vigilant parent is mindful of that and says, every behavior, everything the child does gives me an insight what is inside the mind. Okay. And so he maybe engages more in that conversation just to get a better understanding. Asks his views and thoughts and opinions and this and that. And he says, let me see what's in that mind and how I will interact with that person, what type of career that person should choose. I get some insight. But again here, same thing. People have conflicts within families. Differences could be there. Husband and wife. And you see, some things are common, they attract people together. Two minds. Some things are there and they get coupled, linked together. But if you are not careful, the decoupling also happens. All right. That means they have different minds. And instead of trying to work towards maintaining harmony, things begin to fall apart, drift apart. So here,
disharmony.
Yeah. So if you say, okay, instead of being judgmental and saying, I'm going to force my view or whatever is there, I'm going to try to understand the other person better. In the light of Vedanta, suppose we did that. So let us say we have this Vedanta mind, Vedantic understanding of the person in front of me, and says, I will not say to somebody this, or make an observation and treat it like a fact. You will say, it appears to me. You see, It's not like that.
I believe.
It seems
It's
to me.
from my perspective.
Yeah, see that a little bit. One is to say, that is black and white. Or you say that's... I'm acknowledging the contribution of my mind, but I could be wrong also.
Yeah.
Most probably I would be wrong, not 100%.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then if I don't understand, I don't start blaming that other person immediately. I will say, okay, maybe
an open mind, right?
Maybe I have a conversation and ask that person to explain to me.
Yeah.
And that person says, this is how I saw, this is why I made the decision, this was my perspective, this was my need, or this is why there's a reason behind that behavior, and say, now I get it, A little thing can make a huge difference and brings this peace and harmony, better relationship. But if you don't have that type of understanding, then it's like 2 billiard balls bouncing off each other, and then things can go out of control, spiral out of control. So I think it's a very important thing to understand that no observation, no experience is perfectly objective. None of us have got the absolute truth. All of us superimpose our minds on what we perceive. So what we perceive is X plus the mind. And this mind part we can control, improve upon, purify, so that it's not like a opaque piece of glass, like very heavily tinted, or it's not a red colored glass. Best one is to have a transparent piece of glass that we can see things almost as they are. And yoga is about that only. Yoga means chitta shuddhi, purification of the mind. How do we make the mind so sattvic, pure, that I can apprehend, perceive things as they are?
Take the coloration out, yeah?
Take the color. It's not so easy.
No.
Okay, so you might say, okay, mind has been colored. This could be something we can discuss in more detail. And I know I'm not making the best decisions. My observations are not always right. I'm not making the right comments. My opinions and things are there, but that's the way I am. That's the way my mind is. How do I remove this coloration? What is the method? What are the tools there? And how would meditation and things like that do that? That's where the spiritual practices come into being. And that's how meditation is a very powerful to japa, repetition of the mantra. Mantra actually is a very powerful spiritual energy embedded in it. And you use that energy of the mantra Shakti, for the removal of this coloration of the mind. And the mind becomes purer, and then you see things closer to the truth, so to say. So we have been discussing about the everyday person's mind.
Yeah.
Like mind where it's naturally going out through the 5 senses, and the external world feeds those energies into us. But it's not necessary that all minds dwell at the same plane, same level. And so if you change that, again your perspective changes.
What do you mean by that?
So, for this we have to understand, have another sort of a deep understanding of how we are constituted. We are a physical body. We are a mind in which ideas, thoughts, and there is another dimension of us which is more subtle, which is intelligence. And ultimately, the highest dimension of what we are is pure consciousness. So, the location of I sense, where I am at a particular moment, it moves. When what we call the waking state is when we are aware of ourselves as a body, function through the senses. Mind activates. But look, when you go to sleep in a dream, well, are you aware of your body? Do you use your eyes, ears, nose, when all the five senses? No. But you do have a sense of identity, the dreamer. You have a personality, you're doing things, you're hearing things, you're eating things, you're tasting things. It's a perfectly real existence for you so long you're dreaming. Okay, what's the difference between the waking normal guy and the one who is dreaming? Both are real in their plane of existence.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. For both people, it's experiencing, whatever they're experiencing, it seems quite real to them.
Yeah. While they're
in that state.
And when they wake up, then they compare the waking state and the dream state, and they relegate the dream state as it was a dream, it's not real.
Yeah.
And they give reality to this waking state. But what guarantee is there? This waking state too is not a dream when it's compared from another plane.
Yes.
Okay? And so the sages say that the mind can access another dimension from which it will compare this waking state and relegate this whole life, whatever the waking state from childhood to wherever we are, in the same way. Hey, this is just unreal as the dream that I had last night type of thing. See? We're grounded in another reality. So what we can say is there are different points of perception, levels of consciousness, or different frequencies that the mind can exist at. It's variable. It's like, TV station, we talk about that.
Yes.
So many channels are there. You tune to a particular frequency and a particular show appears. All right. That means, but how many channels are there? Oh, so many. But we can receive one at a time. And that which channel, what we see depends on the channel that we're tuned to. So imagine here and now, there's so many planes of existence. You and I are seeing the same thing, this mic, because both of us are at the same plane of consciousness. And so we can have a conversation. If you go to sleep now, I can't have a conversation with you because your mind has changed to another frequency, your world has changed also. So when you try to understand the teaching of saints and sages, when they describe their spiritual experiences, we have to understand that first their mind shifted to a spiritual level. And from that point of view, they are seeing that same X. But the experience is different. It appears to be different. There's a beautiful lecture, Swami Vivekananda, in volume 3, I think, of Complete Works, One Existence Appearing as Many. So the sages say, whatever is the supreme pure consciousness, Brahman. But there are all these planes of consciousness, the 7 planes of existence, they say, Bhuru, Bhuva, Swaha, all that. And they are different dimensions. So if you are at a particular dimension, your experience is different. We all human beings dwell in more or less in the same bandwidth, so we can have a common experience and we can communicate. What is the truth? Well, they're all appearances. Just to understand that shows that none of us have got the truth. Absolutely. Really. All are having dealing with an appearance, and the mind is the most common element that is imparting its color. So if you want to know the truth as it is, the mind has to become no mind.
Yeah. Discolored,
totally discolored, then it is chitta vritti nirodha. All the thoughts and ideas, vrittis in the mind cease, absolutely still, then the reality is experienced as it is. So that gives a little bit of insight about what happens in a spiritual experience. But coming back to the everyday life, applying this, because it's very, very important, a lot of things we do, the way we react to everything, whatever we see, our minds get colored by all the things that we absorb. What news channel are you watching? Okay, what type of information you are feeding into the mind. So there are people who are, who believe in all types of, what do they call? Fake news.
Yeah.
And where there's so much doubt about everything. Okay. Yeah. But they feel, from their perspective, they're absolutely right.
Yes.
Whether I should take a vaccine or not. depends on what they have been listening to.
Yes.
All right. And they are very, some of them are very educated people. Some are even doctors. You see, but they got absolutely convinced, or their mind got colored by the information that was being fed into it. And now they're reacting in that way. Okay. Influencing other people, and whether they are going to take the vaccine or not. Basically, you saw that type of things. So, you see, now this is the situation. If we did not understand that person in this way, then we might think he's a bad person. Deliberately, he's trying to do that. We want to blame him, punish him, whatever is there. Okay? That you didn't take this vaccine, you lose a job, whatever is there. But if we understood this from a Vedanta point of view and say, how can I help that person? It is not just by enforcing some law and or threat or something that if you don't do this, then there are consequences, as they say. With this understanding comes a lot more empathy, and we'll have a more enlightened way of reaching out to these people. You might just simply sit down with that person and say, let me hear you out. Why do you say this? Okay, nothing happening. You're trying to understand what is in his mind, whatever views and ideas. Then if you have heard him and say, hey, let me share with you, vice versa, and that person says, there's a condition, we'll have this conversation, and said, okay, and you have an opportunity to share. In that sharing, having that conversation, what you are doing is you are beginning to
discolor
or the color that you want to impart.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that he begins to see your point of view.
Yeah.
And then he says, I get that point, and I will agree, follow that. Yeah. So I think the more we understand this, whether we are dealing with people that are very close to us, like children, a parent is looking upon the child as a mind which is all, and he says, how do I prepare this person? That mind is beautifully colored, so to say. Okay, not distorted and wrongly influenced. And when we see some behavior that is not right, then you try to see that person, what is in that mind that made this decision or behavior happen. Okay, just by forcing a behavioral change, like, okay, time's up, time up, whatever they call it, you go and sit down there for 2 minutes and come back. That's not making any change to the mind of the child. Or somebody has committed a crime and you put him in the prison for some time. 2 years. Are we making any change to the mind itself? No. If that is not done, that person comes back into this world, maybe more hardened because he's influenced by the similar minds there, and does the same thing again. And before you know, he's in front of with the police, in front of the judge, and goes in there again. So in reformation, Swami Vivekananda explains it beautifully in Karma Yoga, how character is formed. So the sum total of all the impressions that we have in the mind, say some are good, positive, some are not good, negative. But overall, if it's positive, we say that person is good. So sum total of impressions of the mind determines the nature of the person, the character of the person. And that's how we find some people say, he's a good guy. Okay, doesn't mean that there are not bad impressions are not there, but overall resultant is in that net resultant is in that direction.
Yes.
Now, and if you want, so how did those samskaras formed? You do something, it leaves an impression. You do it again, it reinforces that impression. That's why we do revision and all those things. Yeah. So, if some samskaras have formed and it's hardened and now it's become a habit, so repeated samskaras, repeatedly we do something, habits, reinforce, and that becomes natural.
Yeah.
Easy. Okay. Now if we say we train them. Training here means forming similar samskaras again by doing something again and again to change the samskaras. You want to change the person to make a better person.
Yeah.
You can't go and delete all the samskaras.
No.
Okay. What would be the way to do it then?
You have to provide them the alternative, right?
The opposite. That means we will try to create more of the good samskaras.
Yeah.
All right. And at some point, the needle will swing over to the positive direction. Okay.
take a while. There's so much to undo almost.
And yes, it's not an easy thing that you just, shout at somebody or punish somebody or lock somebody up or whatever is there, that some internal change in the mind is there. Only the external behavior gets controlled. So repeated habits create samskaras and forms character. And to reform a character, the same method applies. Because now we understood how the mind is formed and how can the mind be reformed. That's why Swami Vivekananda says, to be good, to do good, that's the whole of religion. But behind that is this deep philosophy that by doing good, by being good, we are constantly creating these new impressions. And at some point, it becomes the very swabhava, nature of that person to be good in spite of themselves.
Yeah.
They will just do the right thing because their character has been formed.
Yeah.
And so here you get a deep insight about how parents will, look at the mind of the child and do their parenting, how the teachers will teach, and why we should give the best environment so that the best samskaras are formed, and the best samskaras that are in the mind, they're already there, they are called forth. And the undesirable ones are sort of held back until the person develops their own willpower, buddhi, to give expression to the good ones and desist from the undesirable ones. So this is a very simple idea, but it has, how nicely, beautifully it can make us do what we are doing better. Parenting, teaching, at workplace, dealing with people. Learn the secret to look upon people as minds.
Yeah. And to have an open mind, right? An open mind yourself so that other perspectives can be understood.
Yeah.
And you don't have to actually, it's not saying that you have to accept others totally, but at least you're aware of.
Yeah. You know how to deal with that person.
How to deal with that person.
Respectfully.
Yeah, respectfully.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when that person seems to be inflexible or not getting what you're trying to say, then you say, he doesn't have those required samskaras which I have because of my training experience, whatever. So I'm trying to forcefully put something in there. Of course, he's not going to get my point of view. Yes. I should not get angry with that person. No. If anything, if I want to help, let me patiently work. Maybe sending for some training, like they say. Yeah. Hey, get him trained. Now he comes and says, I get it, type of thing. So it's this is how in the everyday life, I think it's very,
it's
very
very, very powerful, right? You can avoid a lot of conflicts.
Conflict resolution. Yes. Conflicts are with the minds. Minds have different minds out there. And they're not going to match. And it can have very little consequences sometimes, little disagreement, but we can live with each other. But sometimes it can have major consequences, like we see, people with a lot of power make decisions and they have implications and consequences. So, it's a idea that one needs to think deeply and check oneself out. So, do not react. Do not react immediately, Swami Vivekananda says in the Complete Works, 3 words I remember. Do not react. That means jump into conclusions and
unleash.
watch, listen, understand that person, and most of the time you'll find a better way to respond. If you get to know what is happening, why is happening inside that mind of the person. Just having a conversation, outside during sports or whatever is there, it gives you deep insight. And good leaders, good managers do that. One-to-one. When you are having a serious conversation, then people are maybe defensive and guarded. They might not say. Very casual sports or this and that, and then they lose their guards down when they don't feel threatened, and they open up and share things. And I think if you want to have success in life, wherever, the more natural person we get, not the one advertising one. Advertising one is the guy who turns up at the interview. He's going to tell you exactly what you want to listen. All right. Advertising is when you meet the person for somebody first time who wants to impress you. Okay. So it's all dress, behavior, everything is there.
The good stuff comes out.
Yeah. Okay. But the real things are still there, and you get that later on.
Yes.
So the more we can get the natural person, the more
Their natural
free they feel with us.
behaviors. Right?
And if people resonate, if we are free with them, open with them, they will respond. But if we are guarded, protected, then they also will hold the shield up ready.
Hard to be vulnerable and create the trust.
The study of the mind is amazing. Okay, yes. But the study of the self at a deeper level is even more amazing.
Good. That's very good, Swamiji. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.
And we'll carry on talking about perspectives again in the next episode.
Yes, we'll look at what we call point of view. When people say, what's your point of view? A little bit, this is a very good topic and very practical topic in our everyday life.
Yes.
Let's have another session on this.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Being in balance. Rhythm. For more information, please visit www.vedanta.nz.